first, and then I'll tell you about her program and what we're doing here today. Anna comes from Ponta Grossa in Paraná, which is below São Paulo in Brazil. Anna was talking to me about her heritage and all of the nations that she represents, but I told her her last name is Panzarini. That's Italian, and we'll take that, and we'll be very satisfied with that. And she began her formation with the Focolare Movement in 1998 up to 2002. And she did that both in Luciano, which is a town, which is all the Focolare, from around where is their center. It's a whole town in Italy, where they also have Sofia University, which is a great university. And she also finished her formation in Monte in Switzerland, in the French part of Switzerland. She took her final vows as a Focolarina in 2011, and then she was assigned to Los Angeles from 2003 to 2010. She went to Chicago for 2010 to 2019, and she came here in Houston in 2019, took up her responsibilities as the campus minister at the Incarnate Word Academy, and also very wise in joining the MAFC program. And we are very happy that she did so, and you're going to see why as she makes her presentation. Just let me call out this also, that the Focolare movement is in 182 different countries. Anna has been summoned to Rome to be part of the team that oversees their youth ministry throughout those 182 countries. This work that she has done on this program is going to be the instrument in and through which she and the Focolare movement are going to be reaching these youth. And I'm very happy that the MAFC has played a part in that. And the object of the Practicum, by the way, is to take everything that you've learned in the program and focus on one particular area where it's going to be applied. And as you're going to see here, she has embodied both what is in the program, the MAFC program, with the spirituality of the Focolare movement, the Chiara Lubich, which is the spirituality of communion, and at its center, the focus on Jesus forsaken. So having said that, now Anna, you take over and wow us.
Wow. So thank you everyone for being here. Thank you, Father Nesti and Dr. Squires and everyone for this introduction. So I will begin by sharing my screen here so that we follow the line of the presentation. So just a brief overview of what I was thinking for today. So we had the welcoming and opening remarks, then we'll have a little opening reflection. We'll have a bit of a program overview. I'll tell you about the process that we use, and then I'll give you a taste of the UNI program. So that's the name of the program that we use. So my practicum, as Father Nesti mentioned, the objective was to work with the core group from the Focolare to develop a Focolare Youth Faith Formation program for youth in North America, for youth ages 13 through 17. And this program is a holistic approach to social emotional learning for teens in the context of the spirituality of unity here in North America. So these are the rest of the team, and they're all here today. So I'm very grateful that they're here. So Sue Cobb, Kevin and Katie, and Father Stan. And my advisor was Father Nesti, whom you already met. So I would like to begin with a short reflection, and we will hear directly from Pope Francis. So you should be able to hear it. So if there's any problem with the audio, you can let us know. The first 10 seconds, there's no audio, so just, it's coming.
Cari fratelli e sorelle, buongiorno.
Jesus existed before things began, before the universe, before everything. He existed before space and time. In him was life, before life appeared. St. John calls him the verbum, that means the word. What does he mean by this? The word is used to communicate. One does not speak alone, one speaks to someone. The fact that Jesus was the Word from the very beginning means that from the beginning, God wants to communicate with us. He wants to talk to us. The only begotten Son of the Father wants to tell us about the beauty of being children of God. He is the life who knows our lives and wants to tell us that He has always loved them. He loves us all. There is nothing that He scorns. We can share everything with Him, everything. Dear brother, dear sister, God became flesh to tell us, to tell you that He loves you right there, that He loves you right there in your frailties, right there where we are most ashamed, where you are most ashamed. This is bold. God's decision is bold. He became flesh precisely where very often we are ashamed. He enters into our shame to become our brother, to share the path of life. He wants us to share with Him our joys and sufferings, desires and fears, hopes and sorrows, people and situations. Let us do this with trust. Let us open our hearts to Him. Let us tell Him everything. And without fear, let us invite Him among us, into our homes, into our families, and also, everyone knows this well, let us invite Him into our frailties. Let us invite Him so that He may see our wounds. He will come and life will change.
We can maybe take a few seconds just to reflect a little bit on what these words mean for us today, in this moment, where we are. The message of Pope Francis is very much the vision that we have for this holistic formation of teens and for the accompaniment that adults are called to have with the teens. So we want to emphasize this message that everyone is immensely and unconditionally loved by God, and God is love, which is also the central understanding of Chiara Lubich. We are each worthy of God's love. We are all made in His image and likeness, accepting that we are children of God, that He is with us, and our calling to live in relationships of communion with everyone, with God first, within ourselves, with others, and for others. And we recognize that we are complex beings. So here you will see, I'm sharing with you the logo that we created. We call this program You and I. So you and I, that stands for this relationship that we are called to have, first of all, with God. So you, God, and I, you in my life, in relationship with others. So whenever I meet somebody else, this you, my brother or sister, and I, and also within myself, you know, the first three letters of the word unity, you know, that we are called to be this one. And this logo Father Lin will appreciate because it speaks to all the layers that we have to peel off to get through that reality that we are children of God. We're constantly bombarded that, you know, we're on our own, that we need to make it on our own, right? Instead, we want to recognize that there's a God that is with us and loves us, like Pope Francis was talking about. And as they are growing in all these different dimensions, you know, at different times, they have this physical pool of the hormones that are growing crazy. The spiritual dimension is growing too, the emotional, as they are growing those teenage years. There's this pool in different, so the wave that represents these movements, but that we are called to be in relationship, and there are people here to walk with them. So that's what the logo for You and I stands for. So now I want to give you a little bit of the program overview. So we imagine it in 9 different modules, and I have here some samples. of the modules, each one of the modules addressing one specific topic. So the first one is like an introduction to the program. The second one is like getting to know ourselves as persons loved by God. The values that we stand on, that we stand for, the virtues, and how to make hard decisions, handling and understanding our emotions, as well as respectfully loving another person. And here we speak of the man-woman stereotypes, relationships of love. Then the 6th module speaks of relationships and freedom, how to respectfully love another, the risks of objectifying somebody for our personal pleasure. Module 7 speaks to the beauty of sexuality and the beauty of life. Chapter 8 speaks on the human person, gender, and homosexuality, specifically how this issue is viewed in this context of North America. And then chapter 9 kind of like wrap things up. How do we discover our life purpose and develop goals for moving forward? So this program...
Che simpatico, che simpatico.
Somebody is not muted. So the teens that are invited to take part of this program, we are imagining that they are ages 13 to 17. If there are too many, because we would like for the group not to be excessively big, so a group of approximately 8 to 14 teenagers. So the ages 15 to 17 would be, you would give preference to that, but the program is for 13 to 17 years old. And we view it as healthy as having a balance between the number of boys and girls. So the when and the how this would happen, we envision 2 options, could be over weekend retreats or a couple of hours every other week that you would meet with the teams to develop each one of those modules. The when and how, this UNI program, it's not an isolated event in the life of the teens, but it involves the whole community. We also see it as a living document. So our goal is to have, as new materials come out, this can always be updated. And it's a community event. So the people at the center are the tutors, a man and a woman who will walk this journey with the teens, who will lead the modules, who will lead the meetings, but they are not doing it on their own. They are doing it with the support of a team of experts. And in this team of experts, it's important to have maybe a therapist, a counselor, priests, youth ministers that can walk that journey with the teens. And then we have this core team, that keeps the program updated, and the local community, the families, the parish, in our context, the Focolare centers and the youth coordinators of the Focolare. So it speaks to that image that it really takes a village to form our young people. So where will it be used? So our goal at first was to address the need that we realized we had within our own community, within the Focolare community. So we envisioned it at first, for youths that are in the Focolare community, because we know that, this will not be an isolated event, but it will eventually, they are already engaged and there will be this accompaniment. But also there are some persons of the Focolare who are working in parishes and schools who are interested in applying this program to their realities. And so we are open to it. And so also we were thinking that, there's a lot of work to be done. This is just the beginning. This is like the starting of a process, right? That eventually there will be some projected revisions for use outside this context of the Focolare and maybe publication. And I see there's some chat here happening. I'm not sure. You guys will let me know if it's something that we need to address. So the process that we use for this program, to create this program, at first, as you can imagine, there's a lot of material out there. The huge need that we found, we were not sure exactly how to prioritize. So we did a survey of the youth leaders of the Focolare, as well as some parents and some young adults, to identify topics that were relevant and how to prioritize. Then we developed a draft of a curriculum and started working with each one of the specific modules. And as we were developing the modules from 1 to 9, like I showed you before, we realized, there's still a lot. So we would, move things around a little bit and combine them better. Like I said, this is a living document. This is a beginning of something that is coming. And then we invited couples that wanted to be tutors, who had actually a group of teens that they could try this program out with. And so we conducted 5 sessions with couples from different parts, as you can see in the PowerPoint, to be tutors of this program, as well as the youth coordinators of the Focolare from the different regions to accompany. And here's just a photo of the tutor training that was done over Zoom. And here's another moment. So now if you guys are ready, I want to invite you all to experience, you and I, what this program looks like. So I will start by, can you see that I changed tabs and now I'm showing module 8? Can you see that, or are you still in my previous presentation? You can see module 8. Okay, so I thought, let's give it a try on module 8. So the material that we're giving to the tutors looks like I shared with you. It's like a little booklet, can also be printed, normal size. And it includes like a page of an overview with the objectives of the specific module, as well as the content of that module. And then we give a little bit like an overview of the flow of the meeting, what it's supposed to look like, what is the duration and the materials that will be needed, just to make it simple for the tutors. Then this is super important, the preparatory materials. So we put together these reading materials for the tutors so that they can get ready to present this module for the teams. And you'll see, that's why I said it's a living document. So the printout version doesn't do justice, because we have lots of links here that will open different sites and different resources that help the tutor be prepared to address the topic, the content of this module that we are going to be talking about. So in this specific module 8, as you know, probably, it's a emotionally charged topic, right? Whenever you're trying to talk about homosexuality, people are usually, know somebody who has been hurt for different reasons, at school, in the church, in their own families, right? So it's a topic that is emotionally charged. So when we were discerning how are we going to address this, we decided to go with the teachings of the church, because this is what the program is about. Giving the teens the opportunity to actually read that the church welcomes everyone. That message that Pope Francis, that we listened to in the beginning, that God is with us always, that he loves us always, it's the message of the church, right? So just to give them directly so that they can reach out to that. And then most of the documents of the church, they speak of dialogue, being able to listen. Pope Francis also used very often the word authorship of the ear, right? So just being there and listening to each other. So we thought that during this module, we would give them this opportunity to work with the teachings of the church and then try some skills to learn how to dialogue. So we have a short icebreaker that's kind of like an energizer and getting, some energy out. Then we have a quick reflection that suffering is part of life. And I'm just giving you the context here for the activity that we are going to be trying. So we give a little bit of the context that suffering is part of life and that we can encounter God in that suffering. And then I forgot to mention, but in the very first module, we develop with the teens some shared rules that then become a pledge. So every time that we meet, we repeat this pledge as a reminder that we are here to love each other, to build this community of trust, that what we share here stays here, right? That it's all, that you are loved for who you are, that nothing is off the table, that, this is a safe place where we can trust each other. So, and this is the main role of the tutors, to ensure that this is really that community of trust and of love, that they can feel free to express that. So then we go to the main activity. And this main activity, we're calling it Digging Deep. And we will have like different stations where they will go with a chart. And this is the chart that they will explore what they already know on the topic, what they wonder about that topic. And then on the bottom, after they deal with the documents, And one of the documents is, for example, the UCAT, what the UCAT says about the topic of homosexuality. And then you have a video of Father Mike Schmidt's, a story of a young man who experienced same-sex attraction, and then, you know, some of the ministries that are available out there in the church. And then the kids are going to fill out, after they visit the stations, they're going to fill out that chart. Also, if there was anything that was confirmed on what they knew already, anything that was clarified, any misconceptions that they had, and what is the new information that they received. And so here's what the UCAT says. These are the words from the catechism. I don't know if you're familiar with the UCAT, but it's all in the format of questions and answers. So they ask a question and then it responds. So they're going to read that and, you know, forgot to mention, thank you. I don't know if people are familiar with the UCAT was actually the work of Pope Benedict XVI. He was the one who did the UCAT for the church. So
Germany.
Started in Germany.
Yeah, it's using everywhere in Asia.
Mm-hmm. And also here. So the UCAT is a great resource. As they're going through the stations, they have different questions that they are going to work with the chart. So one more thing, sorry, I'm a little bit nervous, but one more thing that I forgot to mention, the method that we're using for this program, you and I, is an inductive method of learning, which is different than the deductive method of learning. Instead of a lecture and then you go and you practice what you learn, here are some facts, here is some information. What are some conclusions that you can get from this? So that's the approach. That's why we have activities that are going to guide the modules, the meetings, the retreats with the team. So everything happens through these activities. They are conversation openers, right? So to start opening up, so we have lots of questions for them to reflect and, you know, primary sources for them to deal with. And then after they visit all the stations, they come back together as a whole group. And then what were some of the things that you learned? Were there any misconceptions that the stations helped you clarify? Is there still anything that you're a little bit nervous or anxious about? So, you know, just like to have this group conversation on this topic. And like we said, you know, this is a topic that is a little bit hard, but often, and this is how the tutors are going to start the conversation with the teens. So often, we don't want to talk about it, right? So whenever the topic comes up, if your parents bring something up and you really don't want to hear it, you just call them homophobic, go to your room, lock the door, and that's it, right? So what we want to encourage them here is, you know, it's okay to step back and not just call your parents or your family or, you know, call them names, but let's try to dig a little bit deeper and express what is it that, you know, why are you taking this position? Why do you think that the other person should be respected? Let's talk about it. Let's help each other. So I'm going to ask you all now to imagine that you are a teenager. So try to be 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 years old. So you can pick your age. Everybody has already an age in this bracket of age groups. So whatever age you are, we're going to watch a short video of what the communication is, what kind of communication we're going to aim at. So we're going to try to do a conversation. Let's see if this is going to open nicely here. But these are the skills that I want you all to pay attention to.
Many of us don't listen to other people. Instead, we just think and wait for our turn to express our own opinion. Take a step back and look at your colleagues' conversations. It's likely it'll look more like two monologues where everyone tells about themselves. The cure for it is active listening. It's a very powerful skill. It brings people closer, builds trust, and helps people to open up. Here are 5 steps on how to do it. 1. Stay focused. Keep natural eye contact, don't judge, and be patient. 2. Really listen. Don't think about your similar experiences and what you should tell next. 3. Allow for periods of silence. Wait till the other person speaks again. 4. From time to time, repeat the other person's words or paraphrase it back to them. It will reassure that you really listen and encourage them to open up. 5. Understand the emotions behind the words. When you paraphrase, also try to express the other feelings back to them. Active listening is rather difficult and can be more tiring than talking itself. Be prepared for long conversations. On the other hand, you will gain trust and people will simply like to spend time with you. You will also understand them much better. At the beginning, try it with your spouse or a good friend. You'll see how great they feel after talking to you. If you want to learn more about optimal lifestyle, subscribe to our channel below.
Okay, so now we're going to play a game of bingo. Everyone who is on Zoom, I'm going to put you in breakout rooms. Give me a minute. I'll give you the bingo cards. I'm going to create, I don't know what happened. Sorry. I'm going to create here a link, which I'll put in the chat, and I'll create 8 breakout rooms. So with the link over here on the chat, you should be able to open it. There are 8 slides, 1 through 8, and I'll create 8 groups. And so if you are group number 3, you're going to work with slide number 3. If you're group number 5, you're going to work with slide number 5, okay? And your job is to create a dialogue. You're going to look, the bingo card looks like this. Let me share the bingo card first. And I'll give the same here. Whoever is in the room, I'll give you a hard copy of the bingo card. So you'll see the bingo cards has the skills that you are aiming at. Remember, we're not trying to convert anybody. We're not trying to judge anybody. We're just trying to stay engaged in the dialogue. Keep the conversation going. You are 14 years old and you just want to roll your eyes and go to your room and listen to your music. The effort here will be stay in the conversation, okay? And you're going to try to stay focused, not start singing la 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 in your head. You're going to try to actually listen and show that with your body language. If there's some pauses, it's okay. And try to repeat back what the other person is hearing and express the feelings that you are hearing. So those are the skills that we're aiming at, okay? Then look at the 4 scenarios that you have. You're going to try to come up with a strategy, you and your group, of how you are going to go about the conversation for each one of the scenarios, okay? They're slightly different because this is bingo. So the goal is that you will act out all 4 first, so then you can get the prize. I will roll a number, and then you're going to act it out. For this, because we don't have a lot of time today, what we'll do is we'll just give a chance to one group. But before we actually start the dialogue, I was thinking maybe I'll give you an example of what a dialogue can look like, okay? So I'll invite Father Nesti to help me out. He's going to be a teenager, and I'm going to be grandma. Hold on. And we both are fully vaccinated, so we can stay without our mask if you guys don't mind. So this is the scenario, the simple scenario that we're going to work with, okay? You, Father Nesti, is Austin, and he's going out for brunch with grandma, with his grandparents. At the restaurant, he sees a classmate who is with his sister and her same-sex partner. You try to steer your grandparents the other way, but as you and your grandparents are escorted to your table, you pass right by where your classmate is seated. Okay, so, hey Austin, how's it going?
Hey.
And he moves as fast as he can, returning his greeting in a low-key way because he's worried about his grandparents' reaction. But just after he's seated, his grandmother turns to him. Who was that?
A friend from school.
Are you also friends with that couple? And here, He really wants to roll his eyes and close the subject. But then he remembers his choice to try to live by his values and guided by the belief that every person is of value with their own dignity and they are a child of God. So you try to show up to the conversation with your grandmother.
I'm not sure who you mean, Graham.
Oh, yes, you do. The two young ladies showing some PDA there, the one sitting right by him. You shouldn't be hanging out with people who behave like that.
I don't think that they go to my school.
Here, Austin pauses for a second, really tempted to stop talking.
But there are kids in my school who are out too, you know.
And do you associate with them?
Not really. I don't know them very well. But there are gay students in some of my classes.
Oh boy, it must be so hard to be young in these wild days.
What do you mean, Grandma?
Well, when I was your age, it did not seem so complicated.
So you mean that life just was like boring and you figured out things quickly? But wasn't that the time of the hippies and the love revolution and stuff like that? How did you know the right thing to do then? Seems like things turned out great and perfect for you and Grandpa. But how do you make friends? You get things right all the time.
Well, it wasn't always that easy. For sure, we all made our share of mistakes, but I feel we tried our best and wanted to respect each other. God uses everything, even our mistakes, to help things become more clear. We did pray and work at having love at the center of our family, and God helped us.
Wow, Grandma. It seems so nice to see you and Grandpa are real people who had to work things out. And you kept rooting in God? I think people with the same sex attraction face many challenges. I want to learn better how to treat everyone with love. Because truthfully, the only label that I want to matter to me is that they are beloved children of God too. It's hard because it's to judge other people. I know Mom and Dad don't want me to hang out with these gay kids, but I know they belong to God's family. I want to be there for them and respect them for the dignity that they have as persons too.
Wow, where did you learn this? Thank you for talking to me about this. I believe in what you're saying, and you inspire me to think more about my own Christian values, especially when it's so easy to judge someone else. So thank you. You see the example here? We are not trying to convert Grandma. We're just staying in the dialogue. So if you all were able to open the slideshow that I shared with the numbers, can you give me a thumbs up if you're able to open it? And so now I'm going to create the 8 breakout rooms. When you go there, you have about 3 to 4 minutes to look it over, and you can just maybe choose one out of the 4 that you would be willing to do the dialogue with. So I will just select the rooms randomly. They are created. And I'm going to send everybody, automatically move all participants to the breakout room. And we're going to, the breakout room will close after I'll call you all back. Okay, ready? Bianca and Father Ben are going to show their dialogue. Yeah, tell us your scenario and then just give us a little bit of an example of your dialogue, of your conversation. And everyone else, our job will be to pay attention if they are following the points on the green side, okay? And then you're going to give them a thumbs up from the reaction, or just show me your thumbs on the camera, and everyone here will give them a thumbs up or maybe.
The scenario is one day after football practice, your friend asks if he can walk home with you. During the walk, he shared that he feels attracted to boys and he does not know who to talk to. And so I play that boy who has a homosexual orientation. Bianca, you have time today? I have something very important to share with you. It's bothering me. I feel like boiling water is bottled up inside me. Can you have time time to share with me?
Yes, of course. How about I walk you home?
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. I trust in you. You know, I just recently discovered that I have the homosexual orientation. I'm attracted to boys. And you know, I grew up in the Catholic family and also went to Catholic school. And I was taught by all the sisters and all the priests and even my pastor, and I kept telling that homosexuality is really bad, it's sinful and objectively evil. And so I just don't know, I just feel I'm so sinful. I don't know how to break the news to my mom and dad, and I don't know how to share with them. So I just you know, like a fire inside me burning up.
Oh, I'm so sorry you feel this way. It must be hard for you to have these feelings. I'm glad you spoke to me, and I'm glad you feel safe speaking to me because I'm always here for you.
Oh, yeah, you know, thank you for being my friend. At least I can voice my feelings and something which is so hidden make me feel so sinful, you know, sinful. You have any suggestions for me in helping me to deal with my feelings of being so sinful, being you know, not loved and accepted?
First, I would like to remind you that you shouldn't feel these feelings because you're a child of God and God loves you how you are. And the gospel tells us that love is first and that God loves us. So when you're feeling this way, I'd like to remind you to remember the love that he has for us. And
you know, I know that intellectually. I'm reading books and I hear people talking about that, but it's come to my own experience. Sometimes I feel like I'm very bad with myself. I don't accept myself. Even that orientation, I cannot accept it because my parents didn't accept me. All the voices of authority, moral authority, you're telling me that there's something wrong with it. So how do I feel that love? Can you suggest to me, how do I feel that love, being loved by Jesus?
well, I want to remind you what Pope Francis tells us about love and about to accept him into our heart through prayer, through our relationship with the Trinity, and through conversation and community. We can be reminded that we are children of God and that his love is ready for us when we want, and we have to accept it into our heart.
Thank you for that suggestion. Can you recommend me a group of people who really come together and share these kind of feelings? Because I need to feel that from a support group, you know.
Yeah.
Can you connect me with them? At least I can hear that not only my experience, but the experience of many people who are really struggling with it. And then maybe in that experience of the common sharing of the experiences of pain and hurt or unworthiness, maybe I get the support to feel the experience of God's love.
Happy to do that research for you and find you a group. I might call Anna.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for trying. So everyone, what do you think? Did they engage in the dialogue? Did they give it a try? Right, and remember, the goal here was not for us to find a solution, but was to stay in dialogue. Also, we have to remember that before the things get to this point, this is like towards the end of the module together. So before they get to this point, they are hearing other videos, they are reading from the UCAT, they are listening to the ministries that are available for them in the church. So they will have the language to develop this conversation. And of course, it's just the beginning and the job of the tutors, and that's why the tutors have to be specially prepared for this module specifically, you know, that they will jump in whenever is needed, you know, like, and help them to guide those conversations. So, question for you all now, just for you to think a little bit about this. How did you feel about trying this approach of dialogue? As you were looking through those scenarios, they are super scary. How did you feel? Did you feel like you wanted to go to your room and lock the door? Do you think it's possible to actually try this kind of dialogue with those green skills that we talked about, just like in the video? In the real life scenarios, when you go back to school, when you are with your parents or with your grandma in having brunch, anything that you learned today that is something new and maybe you didn't consider before. So those are the kind of dialogues that, that will continue bringing the group to this discovering the beauty of being children of God together. So just a little sample, then we conclude this module with a reflection on the meaning of suffering, right? So we close in prayer with the meaning of suffering. So this is all I wanted to share with you. Sorry that it took a little bit longer than I expected. And now I guess we can open the floor for any possible, if anybody has any questions, any comments, any remarks, any concerns. Father Nesti.
Okay, if you could illustrate how the program, MAFC program, has helped you in this work and what you've tried to include.
So, Father Nesti, I don't know if you were able to hear him. The MAFC program is the Masters of Arts in Faith and Culture. To me, it was really important as I grew up in another culture and had my formation as a Focolare in another culture, gave me the reading of this cultural context through the lenses of faith. So I see that the students, the people that I am working with within the Focolare, the youth that I'm working with, they're constantly bombarded by this philosophy of you have to make it on your own, and I am trying to give them a different message that, the spirituality of communion calls us to be the home, the family, the heart, so how to make that bridge. So the Masters of Faith and Culture kind of like gave me the tools that I needed to work with the rest of the core team, because this was not my work alone. I worked with them. My service practicum was to serve the core group of the Focolare, to kind of like work with them to make this happen. This specific example of dialogue is straight from my class with Maureen Backy. So, I have been taking this class this semester with her and learning the skills with her. So I'm grateful that she's here today. So
Good, thank you.
maybe more I can go for answer. Any other questions, comments, concerns?
I just would like to make a comment, if it's okay.
Yeah.
So, I have been working in 3 different parishes in the Diocese of Dallas for like 13 years. And I've worked under 3 different youth directors, and we had large group of kids. One was like 700 kids in middle school and 700 kids in high school. And then I've also worked with small groups in middle school and high school, like 30 each. So it's given me a variety of experiences. And, our youth directors are very well formed. They've gotten their degrees in religious education and youth ministry, but they don't have something like what you just presented. And I was one of the half couples that went through the training. And it's really the training of the core team that is totally different than anything that I've experienced in the previous 13 years that I've worked with youth ministry. And that's what's vital. We all say these, our youth directors tell the core team, build a relationship with the kids, build so they trust you. But we have not been taught or trained in dialogue. We always say, oh, well, yes or no. And we feel like we have to give them an answer. Like we have all the answers, but we don't, in knowing their feelings. And it's such an integrated, comprehensive program that I think with the inductive teaching, that makes all the difference in the world. And so I really think it's the experience, the training that you've done for the core team, or the tutors, that makes all the difference in the world. So it is such a great gift to our church. And I really do feel like I'm going to be, I've asked the youth and young adult staff at the Diocese of Dallas before if you had anything like this. I asked them a year ago because our children, our youth are going through, they're coming out in our youth groups saying that they're homosexual or they're transgender, and the church has nothing to deal with it. Even the Diocese of Dallas didn't. So I'm excited to bring this to them and just to say, hey, let's start working with this template. And it's just such an answer to my prayers anyway. So, and I know it's a beginning, but it's a great, great, great beginning. So thank you, everyone who's been involved with this. AP, thanks.
Thanks, Simona.
And Father Nesti often mentioned about the four verbs, encounter, accompany, dialogue, discernment. I think it is so important for us to recognize that sometimes we need to encounter the people we're working with, get to know them, have that self-encounter, encounter oneself, encounter others, encounter God in their own narrative, accompany them. And I think what's important is that dialogue is not so, it's also important, but the discernment, help people to discern. So can you address that aspect of how do we move from dialogue to discernment?
Yeah, so this was one exercise of a whole program. And that's why I mentioned, that this program is not meant as an isolated event, but is this walking with teens, that this open up doors, for you to be there for them to have adults in their life, in addition to their parents, in addition to their teachers, in addition to their youth ministers, that are willing to be role models for them and walk with them. So that's where the discernment will happen, in that relationship of trust that these 9 modules are trying to build. They're trying to give the foundation for you to be there for them, that they can feel like you want to be that expression of God's love. And one thing that Maureen said in one of her classes really touched me, that we don't have to create God's love. God's love is here, we just need to give it to them, right? So these 9 modules are like an opportunity for them to come close to that love of God that you're there openly giving to them. So.
Hi, Ana Paula.
Yes.
I'm so happy to be here with you to see that beautiful presentation. As a mother of 4 kids that I need to all the information too, because the mother, we don't know everything. We do not know everything. So sometimes when they come like so many questions and they need dialogue with us, we don't know sometimes what we should say. And in order for us to give it a good answer for my youth, my teenagers, it's good to know all those kind of topics that you're talking today. So thank you. It's beautiful to know that we can keep going and working with them in the love of God, always with God, and unity with God. Because we need God also for me as a person, but as a mother for my kids, for my nephews, for my kids' friends too. So thank you so much. Me and Eladia, we are watching all this presentation that we needed for our kids. Thank you so much for that. Beautiful.
For sharing. And that's why I said it is a beginning, a work in progress, because we envision that in this community that is forming, it's also important that the parents are aware of what the kids are talking about. So we hope that, the parents who have the teens in this program will be following closely, so they know what the kids are, what's being addressed, what kind of conversations are happening and so forth. But we need to have the materials for the parents coming next chapter. Yes.
So this is excellent. I am very excited to be in the vineyard with you and building the kingdom. We share a lot of students, and this is really, really exciting. A little bit about the experience, or help me to clarify. You trained some trainers, right? And did they invite some young people already? Like they've already had the experience, or they're going to? Where is that?
So we didn't have that. It's a process.
Repeat the question.
Oh yeah. So I don't know if you heard Claire's question. So Claire asked about where are we at with the teens, right? So we train the tutors. So the tutors are the people who actually meet with the teens and do these modules with them. So we didn't have enough time to train the tutors and roll out the program. So the tutors that were trained, they have a group of teens, and now in the summer or in the fall, that they had a chance to really look through this material, prepare themselves. We just gave everything to them. So they're preparing themselves, and hopefully in the fall, there will be 1 or 2 groups rolling out this program. So, then we'll see how we need to adjust, how we'll go from there. But some of the activities I used already with the students, not in the context of the whole program. So, in different moments, and they were, they seem to work the individual activities, in the context of a retreat or different things, so. But we didn't roll out with the teenagers yet. We just have the at Incarnate Word and also with the teens from the Focolare. Yes, Maureen and then Father Ben.
One of the things that I really appreciated was like your whole pedagogical approach, that it's very much relational, it's very much about listening in person, but it doesn't lose church teaching. And I think that, and then that teaching approach and integration you have, then you carry it into how young people learn to dialogue with an emphasis both on the relationality and shared truths. And I think that that's just so beautiful and smooth, and it kind of gets away from the fight or flight that goes on in passing on the faith. Either we hear people who don't like something or don't agree, so we just avoid it, or we argue it. And instead to find that balance of both being in relationship, conversation, dialogue, but being able to say what we believe, but then have conversations about it. And I think that both your teaching approach and then the dialogue style that teaches young people is really a wonderful contribution to dialogue in the world. It's great.
Thank you, Martin. Yes,
I have a suggestion. I think, for the tutors or for the trainers who are actually guiding the other teams to go through that. I work with marriage encounter movements for almost like 26 years. Most of the couple who are sharing or leading the marriage encounter weekend, they have to go through this. We have 11 talks and basically practice and to be familiar with all that. Maybe the best idea is to get the tutors, to get the youth leaders to experience the 9 modules themselves. And then if they experience that, then they begin to become witness of the power of the modules itself. I think it's the only way that when we can embody, just like Maureen said, the essential teachings and also the practice of pastoral care and pastoral sensitivity toward the team's feelings or struggles. That's the best way. I think if you just let them go through the 9 modules, if we just ask them to look at intellectually, it's a different thing.
Yeah, you're right. Just like you guys did it today. You tried that. Any other comments online or here? Yes, Father. Yes.
When we listened to Pope Francis's Angelus message, he emphasized that God speaks boldly to us. And bold is an interesting word. The Acts of the Apostles talks about the apostles preaching boldly. The University of St. Thomas has a sign out there which says, "Be your bold self." And there are 2 ways you can understand boldly, and Maureen touched on it. One of them, that you can be bold in such a way that you're fighting other people, and you, because of your defensiveness about your faith, you're trying to impose it on them in such a way that it becomes judgmental. Or, as I understand the Pope, he's saying, be bold about loving yourself and other people. And if we took the phrase at the university, being your bold self, it flows from the fact that you're a child of God. And it's not just, it cannot be reduced down to an individualistic, psychological kind of new age approach to making yourself something good or bold. And I think that I've always liked parousia, that's the word used in the Greek. And I like it when the room shook, they were preaching boldly and the room shook. But what it's shaking with is the spirit and love. So that's what the program is all about. And I want to emphasize this more, that it, as Maureen did, that it's such a healthy way to say, okay, I'm going to engage you in this conversation, what are your perceptions about this reality? Now let's look at the church teaching. Let's look at the UCAT. And the UCAT is a wonderful, wonderful instrument for communicating the doctrine of the faith, if we like to speak it that way. But I think the program itself is very old.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for the Nesti. I don't know if anybody from the core team wants to say anything because they worked so hard throughout this with me. So I don't know if Sue, I didn't see Katie and Kevin here. I don't know if they were able to connect. But if they want to
I just would say a thank you also to the faculty there, to the center, to Father Nesti. It was as we were feeling the strong need to work, almost an urgency for a program like this. We knew, we were hoping Ana Paula could join the team and be part of it as we kept going forward, but we also knew our studies were pretty intense. And then when this idea came up of being able to combine it and work on it also in her work with the center there, I have to say we really valued that on a number of levels, but also have to say that we saw also the value of her training over this last year and a half. And it really, she brought a number of gifts to the table and also kind of the richness of her classwork with you. So really thank you for this possibility to be open to combining it in this way. So be assured also of our prayers for your work there at the center. So, thank you.
And I'm sure Father Ben and Dr. Squires and myself are so enthused about this, and Maureen as well, and any of the other professors that participate, understand that it's an integrative program. It seeks to bring integration. And just to say the relationship between faith and culture already is embodied in this whole process.
Absolutely.
So I just want to really say, a glory be. We say that a lot in the Center for Faith and Culture, but I really feel like this 2 years of studies and, just for His glory, really. So in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, amen. Glory be to the Father and to the Son and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen. Mary, Mother of Unity, pray for us. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.